evening, and welcome to Dementia Diaries, a caregiver's journey. I hope you all had a fantastic 4th of July holiday, and welcome back. Today, I will have a guest by the name of Vernita Smith-Griffith. She will be joining us tonight to talk to us about her loved one that had dementia. So at this time, please welcome Vernita.
Good evening.
Hello, how are you?
Good evening. I'm great. Thanks.
Awesome. So, Vernita, please just tell us a little bit about yourself.
Oh my, I'm going to be short because I want to spend as much time on this wonderful topic. But I am married 26 years almost. We have 4 kids together, 4 grandchildren. I work in healthy relationships, helping people to strengthen their marriages and their relationships. And let's see, we have a fur baby, and we're empty nesters. So
Okay.
I think that's it. That's me.
And I think that's great because, well, we don't have any fur babies, but we are empty nesters as well. So I understand that joy.
Yeah.
So we are going to just jump right in. And your mother's name was Madeline, and understand that she passed away February last year. Please share
No,
with us
this
this
year,
year,
this past
February
February.
2023. Oh my
Yeah.
gosh, I am so sorry. Yes. Oh my
Yeah.
goodness. Mm.
Yeah.
Please, please tell us about your mom and the type of dementia she had.
Well, she had Alzheimer's,
Hmm.
and she was diagnosed probably almost 20 years before she gave into that disease.
Hmm.
So it was a very long and slow, drawn out process that was horrible to watch.
Hmm. Hmm.
Um, but it was also it had its moments where it was kind of funny because I think the disease, not that my mother was inhibited by much of anything, but it was just funny when she just did not kind of control what she would say. Um,
Hmm.
she didn't live with me um, at the latter part of her life. She lived with my sister. And so I would go up to Connecticut to be with her. But I remember one time when it just popped in my mind. I don't know why I'm telling this story, but we went into Big Lots, that store, and
Hmm.
this, she was getting in and out of cars. She was doing everything, but she still had the dementia. And she would get in the store and she would say real loud, "I have to."
Oh my God. Okay.
She said she had to go to the bathroom and do number 2, but she said it really loud with that word, and she just kept saying it. And I'm like, "Ma, no, you don't." And she's like, "Yes, I do. Yes, I do." And I was like, so embarrassed for a moment, and then
Hmm.
and then it was funny. I mean, people looked, and then it was kind of funny, but yeah, it was a long, long disease. I will say that.
So, if you don't mind, how old was she when she passed?
She was 93.
Oh, she lived a very long life. So that means she started around 70 something. Um,
Mm-hmm.
the disease. I think my mom, she lived until she was 86, almost 87, and I think she had it for about 10 years, maybe a little bit more. Sometimes it's hard to tell that the individual has it at first, so she could have
Right.
had it longer, and we just didn't know.
Mm-hmm.
So, so tell me, what was your reaction or feelings when you first found out that she was diagnosed? Um, and and also, did you expect it because you may have saw something, some behaviors, or was it just totally out of the blue?
Mm-hmm. So it was we saw behaviors. one of the things that she did was she kind of didn't pay bills. Like she was ordering crazy things and she wasn't the kind of person that wouldn't pay her bills. So she would be ordering things and not remembering. So all kinds of crazy things would come into the house where she lived. She was living by herself. And just repeating herself and forgetting some things. And so the siblings and we all got together and talked. And at the time, she was living in Chicago. And so I want to say it was just the sisters, is 3 girls and a boy. And my brother at the time was living in Chicago. So we all went to the doctor with her, and he gave her a test and, asked her things like, what time is it? What year is it? Who's the president? So those kind of things. And then he turned around like 5 minutes later and asked her the same thing. And then, that was like I guess one of the tests that they gave her, I remember. And they told us that she was at the beginning stages. She, of course, was in denial, like I'm sure a lot of people are. And she, she was in denial. So like if we catch her saying something, she would kind of explain it away. Like, no, I didn't say that. Or, I know I said that before or whatever. She'd kind of do that. I'm sure a lot of people do that, try to cover it up. I remember the doctor gave us a video to watch about it because I didn't know much about it.
Okay.
I don't think any of us really knew a lot about that disease, but you get smart, right? You get very learned when things like that happen.
Yes.
So I didn't. So my reaction was, she seemed very normal. So I didn't think I didn't see the progression at that point. You know what I mean? Like, oh, I said, okay, she forgets things and whatever. But then as it progressed and we saw that she wouldn't be able to live by herself because, the stove is the first thing that you think about, is that danger with the kitchen. And then, of course, wandering out of the house and then not knowing where she is and we not knowing where she is. So then we had to put her in an assisted living.
Okay. Now, how did the assisted living work out? I mean, was she on her own most of the time, or were they actually watching her? So the reason I say that is because my mom was in an assisted living facility as well, and she escaped, if you want to put it like that. She got out, and I remember there was a time, I don't know which one it was, she went away, and we didn't know where she was, but she was at Burger King with somebody from the building, and no one knew where she was. So how was the facility itself as far as making sure she was okay?
So when she was in assisted living, she was here in Raleigh with me. And it was probably about 20-25 minutes away from my house. I remember when I dropped her off there, we've been talking to her about this, but of course, she refused to go. She didn't want to go, but we just didn't have a choice. And it was a very difficult decision. We got her a room by herself. So she had like a double, but it was just by herself. And her piano was in there. We try to make it look as much like her home, her space, her recliner was in there. She played the piano for a long time throughout her dementia, which was great. And so I'll never forget when I dropped her off there. Oh my God, she cried. So she was like, "Don't leave me." I'll never forget that. She was like, "Don't leave me." And of course the people there were like, like almost like dropping a child off at daycare. I remember that. And I couldn't leave her. So she came home with me. And then we tried again the next day. And the next day, they were strongly encouraging me to just walk away. And I did. But I tell you what, I don't think I've ever cried that hard in my life. I don't think I ever cried that hard in my life. Almost like a cry from my toes up through my.
Mhm.
Um,
Mhm.
and they told me not to come see her until she got kind of acclimated there. So
Mhm.
what I would do was I would go and I'd bring stuff and leave it in her room, like her favorite snacks, and I would just look at her. So I'd watch her in the cafeteria until she started making friends. My mother always thought she was never old. It was always these old people. And I don't know, I don't need to be here with these old people. So she was very, very lively
Mhm.
and very frisky. So she had like men visitors and stuff. And she did escape one time and went to one of the men used to come and do activities with them. And
Mhm.
she went to his house. He took her
Oh
to his house.
oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. You know, you look on it now, only thing you can do is laugh because
Yeah,
it's so funny. It
yeah,
wasn't funny at that time, but it is
he
so good.
wasn't.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I expect nothing. I shouldn't say expect nothing less. My mother, she lived her life.
Mhm.
She lived her life and she didn't let no grass grow under her feet. Mm-mm. She ain't sit still. So it was good. She played, the piano for those old people. And I took her out as much as, I mean, I took her out all the time. And then she'd come to my house on the weekends. She'd spend the weekends. So, you know, I think our experience with that place was good. It was very expensive.
Mhm.
I will say that it was very expensive, but the space was good. They were nice because they liked her. She was, she was funny, and so they liked all the people liked her. And that was important. And of course, I was able to come at like 2 o'clock in the morning. I would show up, and I'd
Mhm.
call them. What's she doing now? What's she doing now? So they were really good about that. So it
Awesome.
wasn't a bad experience. It wasn't.
Yeah. We I think from the assistant living, my mom went into a nursing home. And it's funny with the nursing home piece because it was like she was there just to sleep.
Hmm.
Because my sisters, I mean, they would go every single day.
Hmm.
They would make sure she had her shower. They
Hmm.
would, they would make sure, did you eat? Did you take your medicine? Although the nurses or CNAs or whomever they are were there was giving it to them. I mean, every single day.
Hmm.
Every nurse or whoever at that facility knew all of her children.
Hmm.
And everybody else around there knew her children too, because she would be the one, that's my daughter, that's Lisa, that's Jeanette, and all of that. So, and she was that frisky one as well.
Hmm.
And she just liked to just move around, just move
Hmm.
around.
Hmm.
One story specifically with her, oh my God, she was a mess. She used to work for the government at one time in her life. And for some reason, she got hooked on the fact that she worked for Bill and Hillary Clinton. And as a matter of fact, she raised Chelsea.
Oh wow. Oh, was that true?
That's the, it. What? No, was that true?
Oh, okay.
Not true. But
Okay.
I
Okay.
mean, the story was believable. Anyone that heard it, I mean, believed it. And at one of the places she stayed, she would tell I think it was the guy that sat behind the desk to sign you in and everything, that she worked there. And he says, well, can I give you my resume so, you can hand it over to them? Because she still knows them now. And yes, 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 yes. So I guess one day one of my sisters came and said, here's a resume for your mom to give to the Clintons. And my sister said, oh, it's not real. It's not true. It's not true. And I would ask her, I said, okay, so if you were raising Chelsea, where was I? Because I'm the youngest. She said, oh, you were there too. You were right there with her. I said, okay.
Wow.
You
Wow.
know, but
What a story.
it was so believable. And she really, it was just so believable. But
Yeah.
those are some of the things that, we went through, and it was so hilarious.
Hmm. Hmm.
But tell me, so when your mom was repeating herself
Hmm.
over and over and over and over, how did you handle that? What did you do? Because it can, if she's repeating herself over and over and over and over within a certain period of time, it can be very annoying, frustrating.
Mhm.
How did you handle that?
So in the beginning, I didn't know enough to not correct her or
Mhm.
say, you told me that or whatever. And at the time, because she seemed so normal, I guess,
Mhm.
when she was doing that. So it didn't happen like all the time, but it happened enough. Um, so I was almost, along with that came with her saying, you don't talk to me, you're not paying attention to me, and, that kind of stuff. And that bothered me
Mhm.
because I didn't feel at the time that that was part of the disease,
Mhm.
recognize that as part of the disease. So it kind of bothered me, and I would fuss back at her and say, I don't have anything to say. What do you want me to say? Um, so when I recognized finally that that was part of the disease, it didn't bother me as much.
Mhm.
And then when she talk about, like in the later stages, when she talk about stuff that happened a long time ago, like it happened yesterday, I
Mhm.
just went on with it. You know what I mean? So, um, I just, in my mind, from early on, I kept telling myself that, I'm making memories and these are going to be stories. So I took lots of videos of us talking and going back and forth. And I have those now. I've looked at some of them, but I have a lot of videos. So it didn't bother me because I really knew that that was the disease. In the beginning,
Mhm.
I wasn't so good at that, but
I
um,
think we all have to learn and just come to the realization, okay, this is, she can't help it. You know,
right,
she
right.
can't help it. She's not doing it on purpose. You can't take it personally.
Oh yeah.
So, you just gotta understand what the
Mhm,
disease is and how it affects her or him.
mhm, mhm, mhm,
I like the part when you said that you took videos and so forth.
mhm,
Being the family historian, I had the opportunity. I took the opportunity when she was able to talk about the past,
mhm,
um, where I could ask her some basic questions and she would answer things I didn't know, and I recorded them on my phone.
mhm,
Um, you can do it for a certain amount of time because once that time and she's done answering questions,
mhm.
okay, I'm finished. You can go. Leave me alone.
Right,
Or
right.
she'll get up and start walking because she was one that moved all the time. She was never, even before the illness, she was always
Mhm,
doing, always moving. So she would just go on and do what she was doing.
mhm, mhm.
So how did so you didn't live with her in the end part.
Mm-mm.
How was it for you coming up to see the changes in her? The
Mhm,
declining. I would be in the same situation you are in because I would have to fly to go see
mhm.
my mom as well. But how did you handle that?
Um, so to be honest, my sister was the primary caregiver, right?
Mhm.
And she gave the absolute best care. If there was like stellar care, she like surpassed stellar care. Like she was the one that sang to my mother every day, rubbed her back, brought in a masseuse so she can have a massage. I mean, she just cared for my mother so much so that, I mean, and the people that she brought in had to love on her that way or else they didn't stay. So what I found difficult for me was, my sister was chained to my mother, like literally. She stopped her life.
Mhm.
And every time she wanted to go somewhere, she has grandchildren, and she wants to visit them and, travel with her husband and, do stuff. But every time she wanted to do that, it was like a whole orchestra, like that she had to put together. Like she had to have coverage from this hour to that hour, even though she had people coming in. But
Mhm.
God forbid somebody got stuck in the snow or got sick or got a flat tire or whatever, it threw everything off. So she had to kind of orchestrate all of that. And then on top of that, she had to put out the call to me and my other sister to say who's going to do coverage, because even though the aides came in for a certain amount of time, they didn't sleep there.
Right.
So we have a couple of them that did, well, one of them that did overnights early on. But so to be honest, like in the beginning, I was kind of, I'm not going to say annoyed is not the word, but I wasn't as, willing to upset my life to do that. So like when she would call or send an email, and she would do this months, and I'm talking about months in advance. What are y'all doing July of next year? Mm-hmm. And I'd be like, well, I don't know. We're going to go such and such on vacation. And, even now thinking back on it, as like, wow, how selfish, right? So I tried to figure out, like, even after that time, was I doing that because really it was painful to see my mother that way? Mm-hmm. And I think the other part of that was my sister, did a lot of hands-on caregiving. Like she knew how to get my mother out of the bed, and there's a certain way you got to turn her, and a certain way to wash her, and a certain way of all that. And she was so anxious to show us that. And I was like, I can't, Mm-hmm. And it's different, I think, when you grow with that decline, right? But when you come in like every other month, and then now that you got to do things this way, that way, for me, it was very, very difficult for me. And I got mad at myself for not being that sibling that would, just be willing to jump in and just doing whatever. I wasn't that sibling. Mm-hmm. And so for that, I'm grateful for my sister. Probably owe her an apology too. But yeah, it was hard to do that. And I think I'm not gonna say it's easier to see the slower decline and harder to come in. And, one time she was walking, now she's not walking. And then she's talking, now she's only saying 5 words or, whatever. You can't call her Ma anymore. She only responds to her first name, Madeline. Mm-hmm. So all of that it was hard. It was difficult. But I mean, we survived, we still halfway like each other. So,
Yeah, I understand, like I said, there's 7 of us, and I had a sister that lived with my mom that was kind of attached with her at the hip. And, she was in my brother's house as well. And they were, there all the time for the most part, Mm-hmm. And well, for one, my brother was there all the time. My sister, she would be there mostly 5 days out of the week, and the other ones come in over the weekend, switch weekends. And yeah, I know it was a lot. Mm-hmm. I know it was a lot for your sister, and it was a lot for my sister and my brother. And so when I came up, I took it as if she raised me. She's done all of these things to get me to where I am today. It's an honor for me to come and help her. But you're right. You learn. I remember I got stuck at the house with her by myself for the first time. And I actually had a panic attack because it was about giving her medicine. And I had a panic attack for about 10, 15 minutes. Mm-hmm. And then I think I talked to my sister, one of them, got myself together and gave her medicine. I learned how to turn her, because you're right, it has to be a certain way. And, because she had got a blood clot. And once she got that, she didn't walk anymore. After that, she was mobile. Getting her, changing her, all this stuff, I had to do it by myself.
I know.
And then, but once I got the hang of it, it was like, okay, it was just nothing. It was, okay, this is what I'm going to do. You sit there, I was singing to her because, she was a singer. She was a part of a senior group, and I was singing to her. And when she got tired of me singing, she said, "You can stop singing now." Yeah, just like that, real black with this look, with this, look on her face, like, yeah, you can stop now. And I would sit there and read her scriptures, but the thing about it, and I wonder if you experienced this too. As I was reading the scriptures to her, she knew the scriptures, so she was saying the scriptures
Mm-hmm.
as I was reading them.
Mm-hmm.
So it was like that part of her memory
Mm-hmm.
did not change. That was something that's ingrained, and she could just, I mean, just I'll be in amazement.
Mm-hmm.
I'll stop reading, and she's still going. So okay, I mean, just keep on reading. You know.
Amazing.
hmm hmm
It's amazing. We didn't have that. I didn't read scripture to her, and maybe my sister did, but she played gospel music, and my mother loved music,
hmm
gospel music and soul music. So she loved to dance, and I knew it was very difficult for her to be in that bed. It was difficult for me to see her in the bed like that because she was the party starter, like literally.
hmm
You wouldn't come to our house and she'd entertain, and you'd have to get up and dance whether you wanted to or not. So it was very difficult to see her that way. But I try to dance in front of her, and she'd crack a smile or she'd say something. I wouldn't understand what it was, but I could tell. What was funny too is sometimes in the latter part, she would start babbling something or saying something. And it was almost like her brain could hear that she wasn't making sense. And so she would stop talking. Like, I know I'm not making sense, so I'll be quiet. So I thought that was interesting. But she'd say things like, I love you, or thank you, or help me, God. Those were some of her things. And she would come back to herself. In those moments. So, that's something that I hung on to visiting her, but it was still difficult to see the decline. And then, of course, talking to my sister sometimes twice a day. You don't want to bug her, but I want to know.
What's going on? How's she doing? Is she taking a
Right,
medicine, eating? Yeah.
right, right. So that was hard.
So, because there's the transit part where she loses all the weight. You
Mhm.
know, um, I know when I went to see my mom and she had lost all that weight, it was like I had to do like a deep breath to just, keep going on. But I'm interested, and I don't know if your sister has ever told you or not, but what was her reaction to um, the hesitation of you all in the beginning to be more proactive
Mhm.
in taking care of your mom?
So my sister is like, first of all, she's 8 years older than me. So she's a LCSW, right? So she's
hmm
a different animal. Um, so while I think she was somewhat hurt, somewhat angry, somewhat tired, disappointed, she still pushed through, and um, you know, we covered every time she needed coverage, we did it. Um,
Right.
but she just, pushed through to make that happen. She certainly wasn't as like I would have been, because I would have been cussing and fussing, and I just would have been not a good sister. I just would not have been. Okay. So I would have been like, y'all need to blah, 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 blah. She
hmm
wasn't like that. She just, I need coverage and, that kind of thing. She's the oldest, so she got she got she got all of that part of my parents, and the rest of us, we didn't
Got
get
the
that. Yeah, we didn't get that. We didn't get that. She used it all up. So, but she was gracious about that. And I've heard stories where, siblings, that's a real battle. But
Mhm.
when one sibling checked out, like my brother checked out, she just went on with the rest of us. You know what I'm saying? Like we
Yeah.
we just went on with it.
hmm And that's good. That's that's good to hear, and that she was really. I mean, I guess she knew you all didn't live in the same state, right? No one lived in the same state.
None of
So,
us. Right.
and that would be more difficult because you're the only one there. You
Right.
just, hey, can you come here for about, 30, 40, 50, an hour for me while I run out and do something? That's, yeah. So
Yeah,
that's,
you can't do that. And her
yeah.
husband was a great support. She has
Mhm.
a older daughter, not older, but she has a grown daughter that lives there. She was a support as well. My other sister lives in New York, so it's a couple of hours by bus or train or car, whatever, away. And she wasn't working a lot of the time, so she was more able to go. In the beginning, I was working. And so it's just been the last 5 years that I hadn't worked at a job.
Okay.
So, I had to take my vacation time and, that kind of thing to go.
Mhm.
But then once that was over, it was like, okay, I need coverage this time. I want to go there. I want to go there. And she really needed it. I mean, I knew that. Um, I knew that. And actually, in the beginning, before my mother got the way, before she really declined, we had all talked about her going into a facility in
Mhm.
Connecticut. And, Glennis kind of looked into it, half-heartedly, but in the back of her mind, I knew she was like, I'm never putting Ma away.
Mhm.
And she just didn't. And
Mhm.
she didn't. And I believe that my mother stayed alive as long as she did. And she looked beautiful.
Mhm.
Um, she looked absolutely beautiful. I mean, she would be pleased because she was very vain. She would be very pleased at how she looked. So I think that's because of the way my sister took care of her.
Mhm.
Plain and simple. Plain,
And I
just
think it makes a difference when family is around,
it
you know,
absolutely does. It
and
absolutely does.
it just made a difference because, like I said before, my mom was in a nursing home, and we took her out of the nursing home, and she went to stay with my brother, and she loved it, telling everybody what to do, and oh God, oh my God, I just sit back and just think about just some of the things she would say and some of the things she would do. It's like, wow, because she had an amazing right hook. That
Oh,
that I would tell when we have the aides come in, especially if it was a different aide, and I was there, I would tell them, okay, look out for the right hook, because if you go over there like to take the sheet off or to move her blanket or whatever, it is coming. It is
wow.
definitely coming up, and she made that thing too. She would
Wow.
make that thing, and it's like it would be so funny. It would be so funny. It would connect sometimes, and sometimes it would not connect, and you would be amazed at how strong um,
Oh, yeah.
they were at that time when they looked so fragile. But
Mm-hmm.
that's just how it was. So, but if you had something to tell everyone, one recommendation, one thought, one anything that you would tell someone that's a caregiver or that has a loved one that is suffering from dementia, what would you say?
Oh my goodness. I don't think there's just one thing. I think if you have siblings, and I can only imagine what it's like to be an only child and have to do this. But if you have siblings, the one thing I would say is pull together. Um, pull together. Everybody's not going to be the muscle. Some people are the brains. Some people are, they do the research. Some people can clean the loved one.
Mhm.
And some people will interview the caregivers. You know what I mean? Everybody has their gift. So I think what I would say is pull together, no matter what,
Mhm.
no matter what you know the past has looked like. I think that's so important, because one person lifting this weight is just way too heavy. It's a lot to go through. And it's not just physical, it's your heart work, right? It's your heart that is taking a beating right now,
Oh,
and that's difficult. So I would say pull together.
yeah, I think that's great, and I like the way that you said that because a lot of people, a lot of siblings don't think about it that way. Okay, if you're great at doing this,
Mhm.
you do this over here. You
Mhm.
know, if you're better at interviewing aides and you have that knowledge and so forth and so on, I think that would be great. I know with us, I know I didn't do that part. I wasn't a part of that part. Um, so we would have calls,
Mhm.
monthly calls, and sometimes the calls would end up in hang-ups, but and then other times it wouldn't, so um, but I think most of all too, as long as the caregiver will understand that you're doing this because you love that person,
Mhm.
and the siblings, everyone is trying to do what is best
Mhm.
for that for your mom, for your dad, or whomever it is.
Mhm.
We all have different thoughts and just different ways of doing things. So just if we can hone it in together and listen,
Mhm.
and it would make things a lot better on the family overall.
Yeah, and I think you'll grow together. This could tear families apart, or it can pull them together.
Hmm.
And I think you have to be intentional about how you make that choice, what you want it to look like at the end,
Hmm.
and can you live with that choice, right? So, and would your parent want that? Like, what parent wants their kids to be separated? Um, I, I think about both of my parents are gone, and I think about what they would say about how the four of us get along or not get along right now, and they wouldn't be happy. They
Hmm.
wouldn't be happy. And so, you know, it's it's difficult. It's difficult because you're in the middle of pain and you're in the middle of love.
Hmm.
So, you just kind of got to do the best you can.
I can remember, one time I just had a huge blow up on the line, and I was one that hung up and and didn't speak. But then it just that experience just changed me altogether, because what I came to realize is that these are my siblings. Like I just said, we're all trying to do what's best. And the fact of the matter is, um, I still love my siblings. They're still my siblings.
Mhm.
We're going to get over it. So why not get over it sooner rather than later?
Mhm.
So, from that point on, I really did not have too much of a disagreement, or,
Mhm.
something along those lines. I just let a lot of things just go, because it really didn't matter. It really, at the end of the day, it didn't matter. None of it really mattered, because she
Mhm.
was being taken care of, and she was, she was safe, and all those things, and that's what really mattered. So,
Absolutely. Absolutely.
well, Renee, I thank you so much for joining us this afternoon and for sharing your
Yeah.
story.
Thank you for having me.
Yes, this was a wonderful
Mhm.
discussion, and I appreciate it. And again, thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So, everyone, it was a pleasure to speak with Vernita this afternoon and to hear her story, and just to hear some of the similarities that she had in her family that I had in mine, and probably that some of you have in your own family. But before I go, I just want to go back and just talk about my mom for a moment. Tuesday, July 11th, was the first anniversary of my mom not being here. And, we went through Christmas, we went through Mother's Day, and, this final day of July 11th. And, it was a very, how can I explain the day? The day it wasn't a somber day. It was just a day of reflection. And I think that's a good word, day of reflection, reflecting on all of the memories that um, we had together, reflection on the relationship that I had with my mother, myself, not as far as all of my siblings, but for me and her. Just sitting back thinking about all of the lessons that I learned from her, and understanding that I am who I am, and the way I am because of her. I can see her characteristics, her personality within myself, to some extent. So, the grief gets easier. It's harder for some than it is for others, but you just got to breathe through it, remember the good things, and just, hold on to those things and cherish them. So for those of you that are taking care of your loved ones now, cherish them, cherish that moment, because you only have that one parent, that one mother, that one father. Cherish it, and be able to tell their stories to your children and on down the line. So again, thank you for joining us at Dementia Diaries, a caregiver's journey, and we'll be back with you in 2 weeks. Thank you so much.